By yes or no, please.
Yes, I fully understand that I'm under oath.
Thank you very much. Before the break, we had this conversation about the need to give you more time to explain certain issues. And I agree with you that that is important. But when I do give you that chance, let's always endeavor to make sure that the explanation is succinct, precise, to the point, and as brief as possible. Agreed?
Of course, sir, I will do my best to make sure that I stick within your time. But I also want the Gambian people to really know what happened and to know some of the reasons and explanations. If not, they will be covered forever. Nobody would know. But can I please just make a very short statement, Madam Chairperson, Council, with your permission?
Please go ahead.
I came voluntarily to the Gambia from Abuja. I came on my own accord. I came to participate in this process because I believe in it. I have great respect for all of the commissioners and for you, Council, and great respect for the Gambian people. And as I have already highlighted, I am perhaps responsible ad initio for putting Jammeh there. So anything that has happened, I feel partly responsible, and for that I'm deeply remorseful. I've not come here to argue, and I have not come here to try to offer explanations that will extricate myself without cause. So I have come to fully cooperate. I just want you to understand that, and I want to be given the opportunity to generally apologize also when you deem fit to give me the chance.
Thank you very much, Mr. SINGHATEH. And let's proceed accordingly. Before the break, we were talking about the detention of the security personnel at Mile 2 Prison Security Wing. And I asked you the question that the security wing was not that the conditions in the security wing were inhumane, and this fact was known to the AFPRC. What do you say to that?
I say yes, the conditions were not good, but that was all we had. There was nowhere else.
Do you believe that that is an excuse to put your superior officers in such terrible conditions? You could have had other places for detention.
What I believe is that for the security of this nation, for lives to be spared, sometimes extreme measures have to be taken. If I was deemed a security threat and I was kept there for the interest of this country, I would accept it.
But you would agree with me that even if one would reconcile oneself to being detained, there is no excuse to be detained in such horrible conditions as those people were detained at the security wing.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You would agree with me that even though one might reconcile oneself to being detained, it is difficult for one to accept being detained in subhuman conditions as those security officers were in Mile 2.
Council, let me take it a step further. It is difficult to reconcile even being detained in a luxurious place against your will, much more under such circumstances. So I do accept that it was wrong and the conditions were not the best.
And not only was it wrong, it was also unlawful.
Well, you have just showed everybody the decree, and if the decree legalizes it, then definitely it is not unlawful.
The decree legalized the detention, but the decree cannot legalize the inhumane nature of the detention. You agree?
Yes, sir, I do agree. But like I said, that was the only infrastructure that was available.
The Commission will take note of that fact, that this is the only condition, this is the only location that was available. Certainly, the Commission would consider where there are other possible places where these people could have been detained instead of under the horrible conditions in which they were detained at Mile 2 prison. But that said, soon after the takeover, civilian authorities or former politicians and ministers were arrested and at some stage taken to Mile 2 prison. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir. Before we go to that, can we look at the list and see some of those whose detention was completely unnecessary and uncalled for, according to the best of my own knowledge?
Yes, we can certainly do that. I would give you the list.
Yes, sir.
I would call out the names and
yes,
you would
sir.
tell us.
Yes, sir.
Captain Ibrahim Akambi.
Captain Ibrahim Akambi, to the best of my knowledge, had done nothing wrong. He's an exceptional officer. Okay. I don't know why he was detained or whether it was part of the reasons advanced for Mama Cham and Samsid Insar and a few others. But to the best of my knowledge, that one was wrong. And I deeply and profoundly apologize for whatever role I played there.
And Mr. Singhateh, you would agree,
yes, sir,
that if the decision was wrong, it means also that it was unlawful.
Sir, you know, I have asked you to bring the name so that I can volunteer this information.
Yes, but
yes.
I just asked this question. If it was wrong, it therefore means there is no legal justification.
As far as I know, there was no legal justification for the detention of Kambi. I agree.
Okay, good. And Captain Mama Cham?
Captain Mama Cham was accused of plotting a coup along with Samsid Insar and others. However, I don't believe that there was a thorough investigation conducted to that effect. I cannot remember seeing any report.
Again, you would doubt that there was sufficient legal basis for his detention?
Sufficient evidence, but it is not strictly black and white as far as legal is concerned. If there is a threat to lives and property, then it has to be contained. Perhaps when you look at the length of detention, that one cannot be justified.
And the length of detention, because it cannot be justified, also points to illegal detention, correct?
Yes, sir. I don't know whether you're trying to hook me on illegalities, but I'm trying to own up and then say that some of these things were wrong.
But, Mr. Singhateh, I understand that, but when you own up to things, they should also have a legal characterization, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And I'm just trying to put it in the proper legal context.
I hope you will also call the Attorney General at the time and then ask him why he drafted these decrees.
That's a good suggestion. Not that I would take suggestions from you, but be rest assured that we would leave no stone unturned.
No, but I mean, on a serious note, please do not hold any of the Attorney Generals to account for any act that myself or any of us have done or asked them to do.
You being generous to the Attorneys General.
No, I just want to take responsibility.
Okay, good. So Ben Wilson, was his detention justified?
I don't believe so either. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. I think that is in my statement.
Okay, I will skip Captain Samsid Insar because it's the same explanation with Captain Mama Cham.
Yes, yes.
All right. Captain Johnson, James C. Johnson.
I believe it falls under the same umbrella. However,
we have two umbrellas, the Cham and Sar umbrella and the Kambi and Wilson umbrella.
Cham and Sar umbrella. However, Captain Johnson's medical condition was not was too poor to have subjected him to such conditions. That should never have happened.
So you would accept that because of his medical conditions, his detention at the security wing at Mile 2 prison is inhumane?
That one definitely I agree is wrong.
Captain Ndour-Cham?
Captain, I don't know what Ndour-Cham did really. I cannot recall at the time what was the reason for his arrest, and I have to say, if that is the case, then it was wrong.
Captain Mamadou K. Sonko?
Captain Mamadou K. Sonko, I think also falls under the same umbrella as Captain Cham and Captain Samsidine Sarr, even though I could be wrong.
Yes, so Major Malik Njai?
Same umbrella as Captain Cham and Captain Samsidine Sarr.
Anturo Jaune?
The same umbrella.
Security threat?
Yes, sir.
Sirif Gomez?
Yes, sir, the same.
Alaji Kante?
Alaji Kante, no. I don't know, I cannot explain Alaji Kante's arrest. And it is unfortunate, and I am deeply sorry for whatever part I played.
Lieutenant Kinte?
Lieutenant Kinte, like I said in my statement, was a friend. We trained together in the US, and that was, as far as I'm concerned, a mistake. It should never have happened.
I can go through the entire list, but can we settle for the fact that you accept that for some of them, their detention may have been justified, but for the others, the detention was wrong, it was unlawful?
Yes, sir.
Can we also settle for the fact that the conditions of detention were inhumane and ought not to have happened?
Well, sir, we can settle on the fact that this is what we had, whether inhumane or not. But remember, sir, we are soldiers. We spend our time in the bush in conditions that perhaps are worse than the cell.
Yes, Mr. Singhateh, that is voluntary, right? You agree to be subjected to that. What we are talking about is detention, imprisonment, under conditions that are not allowed by law. So do you accept that those conditions were inhumane?
I accept that the conditions were very bad.
Okay, the commission will determine whether that very bad equals inhumane conditions. So the commission would decide that. So may we now move on to the issue of the arrest and detention of O.J. Jallow and others at Mile 2 prison, where a mock execution was carried out?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Can you tell us what happened on that occasion?
Well, I was not part of those who conducted the arrests. What I do recall is that I passed Mile 2. Now, I cannot recall whether I was coming out of Banjul or going to Banjul. But I did see Sana Sabali's vehicles out there, and there were some soldiers. So I believe I was radioed to come, and I went to join them, not knowing who was there and for what.
And when you arrived there, could you tell us what you saw the soldiers doing, including Sana Sabali, members of his entourage?
Yes, sir. There was one of them, a couple of them sitting, and one of them was brewing a tire. That was more towards the office area, where the main office is inside the premises. Now, further down towards the remand unit, so the remand wing, it was Sana Sabali with a couple of, not a couple, with the remainder of his guards and orderlies. And
were other council members present?
No, sir, nobody was. So I approached, and Sana Sabali offered me a seat. But what I noticed was that there was somebody who was yelling, I believe he was being beaten. So apparently what was happening is that every one of those who had been arrested were in the remand wing itself, and they would go and take one out, excuse me, take him around the corner somewhere and beat him. And obviously when the cries are heard by those who are within the remand wing, of course, I mean, they will be intimidated and they'll be fearful, and then somebody would fire shots in the air, and then they would take the person to a different place, not return them back to the remand wing. So when I saw that, I decided to leave.
Do you know why the person who's just been tortured is taken to a different part of the remand wing?
Yes, of course. I mean, like you said in your question, mock executions. It was designed to bring absolute fear in the hearts of those who were left behind, because they see one of their colleagues dragged away, they can hear cries, and then they hear gunshots, then there's silence. So obviously, those who have been left behind to be collected later would think that those who were taken prior had been executed, and would also fear for themselves.
So, and that fear is in fact some form of psychological torture?
Naturally, it is. Definitely it is.
For how long did you stay at Mile 2 prison whilst this was going on?
I cannot remember the exact time. It was just when I saw what was happening, that one was being beaten. I don't even know who was being beaten, but I could hear cries, and I saw him, I heard shots in the air, he was dragged away. Then they went for somebody else, and I knew exactly what was going on. So I politely took my leave, and then I went directly to State House.
You are a lawyer, Mr. Singhateh.
Yes, sir.
Was that conduct lawful?
No, the conduct was not lawful. It was despicable. It was wrong. You know, you don't treat anyone like that, much more elderly people. So it was completely wrong and unlawful.
It was not only meant to brutalize those people, but it was also meant to humiliate them, because seats were arranged and spectators occupied those seats enjoying the show.
Well, I wouldn't say spectators, because I was not a spectator. Maybe they called me to participate, I don't know, but I was offered a seat. And if a couple of more seats were there, people were not invited to come and watch the show. No, that didn't happen. But well, I do agree that it was despicable. It should not have happened. And it was, I guess, designed maybe to humiliate. I'm not sure, but I know it was designed to really hurt them psychologically and physically. That's
we heard from O.J. Jallow, and he said he was one of the victims, and seats were arranged, and council members were seated, watching what was going on.
It's possible that Sadibou Haidara was there. But apart from that, nobody else was there. That one, I mean, I can say.
So is it possible, therefore, that 3 council members were there when this thing was happening? Sana Sabali, yourself, and Sadibou Haidara?
It is possible that 3 council members, the 3 of us that you have mentioned, were there for a very brief time. Maybe that is what he saw, and felt that council members had come to watch this. But I can assure you that as soon as I saw what was going on, I left.
And what did you do when you left?
I went straight to State House, and I met Jammeh, and I explained to him what was going on. He laughed when I was explaining, but I told him, you know, these are elderly people. Now, let's say one of them has a heart attack and dies, or something goes wrong. How are we going to explain that anywhere, to the international community, to the Gambian people. And he said, okay. Then he called Sana and told him, it's okay, you can stop.
Does it occur to you, or did it appear to you that Jammeh knew exactly what was happening?
This is what I felt. I felt he knew. I would not be surprised if Jammeh was the one who ordered Sana to go and do this.
The evidence we had suggested that you participated in that activity, not actively, but you were there and observed what was happening. Of course, now what we have is your word against that of Omar Jallow, Honorable OJ. This matter would be further investigated, and the evidence that is gathered would be presented to the Commission. We just thought it is fair that we put the allegation to you, and then you answer. You answer what you know, but more evidence would be gathered on this, and the Commission would be able to draw its conclusions and attribute responsibility for that particular violation. So we may proceed now on to other things, or there is something you want to say about that?
Just very briefly, first of all, I respect Uncle OJ and the evidence that he has placed before the Commission. He was badly treated, but I can assure you, and I would like also for you to go and ask each and every one of the ministers if I have ever harmed them or even disrespected them. That has never happened.
You would accept, Mr. Singhateh, that to act unlawfully does not necessarily have to include one harming them or to be disrespectful towards them. Being there and participating in the decision making as to how they should be treated alone is sufficient to attribute legal responsibility for violation. You agree?
I agree with that, but I never did participate in that decision making, and I did my best to stop that.
Thank you very much. So we proceed to the next topic, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. That was not the only incident where there was mock execution carried out by members of the AFTRC, correct?
I know that there is an allegation or an adverse mention regarding the security detainees and mock executions.
Do you recall that night of 6th September or 5th and 6th September when you and your colleagues went to Mile 2 prison? Yes, at night?
Yes, sir, I do recall that night.
Could you tell us what happened on the first night? It is alleged that the council members went to the prison.
The first night, I thought there was only one night.
The allegation we received is that the council members went on the 5th, but they found that the prisons was locked and the officer responsible went away with the keys. The council members could not have access.
I cannot recall that. What I can recall is that after Mama Cham, Samsidin Sar, and others, I think Chongan and a few others that are on your list, were accused of plotting a counter coup. The council felt that maybe there might be more within the officer corps or within the ranks of the armed forces that were part of it. And so the reason for going to Mile 2 that night was not to beat and torture, but it was to interrogate some of these officers to find out whether they did have collaborators.
But to investigate or interrogate?
Investigate, interrogate, yes.
Well, I'm just thinking.
Yes, I know.
Wasn't it more prudent to do these investigations during the day instead of sneaking into the prison at such ungodly hour?
Nobody sneaked into the prison, and no hour is ungodly. God has made all hours. But it was not as late as perhaps the saying ungodly goes.
Again, figure of speech.
Yes,
we
sir.
all know what it means. You went there at the early hours of the morning, at a time when nobody visits a prison.
No, it was at night, but not early hours of the morning.
Around 1 a.m.?
No, sir. Some of us do have to sleep. You know.
Well, the evidence we received by at least from 6 witnesses who were victims, living victims of that horrible incident, all of them suggested that it was after midnight when your party arrived at the prison.
Well, I would beg to differ. I cannot remember any of them wearing watches when they were being arrested, so I don't know how they would know the time.
Yeah, but Mr. Singhateh,
and there was no light. Sorry, there was no light, so it is difficult to judge the time. But
okay,
I admit that we went. I just have a disagreement with the time.
But you agree that you went at night?
Yes, I agree with that.
And this is after normal working hours?
Yes, sir, it was.
It is after the period when visits are allowed in the prison?
Yes, sir.
All right. So that strip was not normal at all?
Well, sir, we were not in normal times, so it was not normal, but the times themselves were not normal. Hardly anything was normal.
But that was no justification for doing something abnormal?
Sir, I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to explain. And I agree that the time was odd, it was after working hours, and normally, as we have used the word, that should not have happened.
Good. So let's proceed as to what happened when you got to the prison.
Well, when we got to the prisons, I think there was already an agreement of who and who would be questioned.
And agreed by who?
Generally, those who were alleged to have been plotting against us.
Who made that agreement?
Well, it was agreed during a conversation that, well, they might have information of who their collaborators were if they had.
Which group made that agreement?
The Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council. It was all of us. I agree with that.
Thank you. So it was a council decision that
Yes,
you
sir.
would go and interrogate these people?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so you chose to go after hours?
No, I think the decision was not made during the normal working hours and then we set a time. I believe that it was made prior to going. That this is what I can recall. It's been a long time.
Okay, you arrived there at
Yes,
night.
sir.
Tell
Yes,
us
sir.
what happened.
Well, when we arrived, as far as I can recall, Mama, are you with me or?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. As far as I can recall, Mama Cham was dragged out of the cell and hit on the face with a rifle.
By who?
It was by a soldier who was standing right next to me. He was grabbed out by somebody. As soon as he came up, he was hit.
Okay. Could you take a few steps backward?
Yes, sir.
And tell us what happened as you enter into the security wing of the prison, and who went with you?
Well, all of the AFPRC members, Oddlies too.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, all of us were there. With our Oddlies, there were some soldiers from State House, I believe.
Yaya Jammeh was not there.
Yaya Jammeh was not there, no.
Is there any other officer who was there who was not a member of the council?
I can remember I was asked about my brother Peter, whether he was there, but yes, he was.
So when you arrived there,
yes,
in the security wing, tell us what happened?
As far as I can recall, they went to retrieve those that I mentioned from the cells.
Did you do or say anything that led to the removal of any one of them?
No, I was not in charge. I was not the one giving the orders. So my voice was not, there was no need for me to, to say anything or do anything.
Mr. Singhateh,
yes,
do
sir.
you agree that you have a distinctive voice?
Yes, sir, I do.
And some of these people are people who worked with you before and would recognize your voice.
Even if they didn't work with me, they would recognize my voice because I have a distinctive voice.
Yes, and therefore, do you have any reason to believe while they would want to just implicate you in something that you did not do?
Well, of course. They were detained, their careers were ruined, some of them suffered subsequently, and a lot still have that grudge.
But obviously, if that is your basis, the grudge would be the same grudge they would have against all members of that group that went there.
Absolutely.
So therefore, they would not have any reason to single you out for one particular act just because you were a member of the group.
Sir, I cannot hold brief on behalf of any of them. What I do know is that, in fact, if you can remind me of what they said that I said, and then perhaps I might be able to give some more insight.
Yes. The first accusation is that you walked in and started yelling, "Where is Captain Mamad Cham? Where is Captain Mamad Cham?" Is that true, or you say it's false?
No, that is not true.
Well, Captain Mamad Cham would obviously know your voice.
Yes.
He worked with you. He was your commander, wasn't he?
True, but that doesn't mean that what he said is accurate.
I did not say that. I just asked whether he was your commander.
Yes, he was.
And he would recognize your voice.
Naturally, he
and
would.
if you would call out his name, he would know that it's you calling out his name.
Yes, sir.
And this is what he had to say about that particular issue. And I would ordinarily ask that the video be played. But because of time, I want us to move forward, so I'll just read out from the transcript.
Yes, sir.
I am sure, I want to believe that you have watched a lot of these testimonies.
I've watched a lot, not all.
Yes, but did you watch the one by Mamad Cham?
I did not watch what he said about me in this instance.
Okay,
so
but
please read it.
Okay,
yes.
Let me read it out. It says, around 1 a.m., we had visitors, Edward Singhateh and other members of the council, with exception of Yaya Jammeh, Peter Singhateh and their military escorts and drivers. As they entered the prison's gate and walked through the corridor leading into Mile 2 Prison Security Wing number 4, where we were detained, they made a lot of noise. As soon as they arrived, a very intoxicated Edward Singhateh was shouting, "Where is Captain Mamad Cham? Where is Captain Mamad Cham?" Do you dispute that?
I dispute that.
Well, Mr. Singhateh, that is also corroborated by some other witness who was there. And this time around, it is Mr. Ibrahim Achongan, who was Assistant Inspector General of Police at the time. And this is what he had to say. I'll just read out the transcript. And he also said, I asked him the question, so when you saw them, you recognize all of them, is that right? And he answered, yes, that is right, but not instantly, because we are now in our different individual cells. So there is this commotion, so we don't know what is happening. And then suddenly, I heard Edward Singhateh saying, where is Captain Emo Cham? Where is Captain Emo Cham? Because it was at night and they were with the then Deputy Prison Governor Antu Sedi. So when they say, where is Captain Cham? They start to search in which cell he is. So this statement that you uttered is also remembered by Mr. Chongan. You still dispute that?
Yes, I still dispute that. You see, sir, if I did shout, "Where is Mama Cham?" I would own up to it. But I did not shout, "Where is Mama Cham?" And
well,
really,
we have two witnesses recalling quite vividly that these were the words that you used. Okay, we would move on, and the commission would draw its conclusions on that. All right. Do you recall which cell your group first went to?
No, sir.
Do you recall seeing Captain Mamad Cham brought out of his cell?
Yes, sir. I can remember he was dragged out of the cell and he was hit in the face. I can remember that.
Perhaps, Mr. Singhateh, before that, I just want to tell you that another witness also recalled that. I think it was what's his name again? It was Babu. No, it was Jeng. He recalled the words that were used. Where is Captain Cham? Where is Captain Cham? He did not say, he did not mention who said it. So at least we have three witnesses indicating that those words were uttered. Two of them attributed those words to you, and you deny ever making those statements.
Sir, I deny that. I never uttered those words. And if I did, I would own up to it.
Did you hear anybody uttering those words?
I know we were searching for these specific officers, but that is why we were with the prison officer who supposedly knew where they were.
Okay, so we proceed. When you got to the cell of Captain Mamad Cham and he was being brought out of the cell, can you tell us what happened?
As far as I can recall, he was the cell door was open, and somebody went in and dragged him out. I was at the door of the cell with everybody else, and somebody hit him very hard with an AK-47 on his face, and he collapsed.
And who is that somebody?
I honestly can't tell. I don't know who was standing left and right. It was dark, but I know we had people who had their AK-47s. I was not carrying a rifle.
And in this darkness, it was easier to see a light-skinned person more than a dark soldier standing right now.
Absolutely. That is why, as he...
Just answer the... limit yourself to the question. Just limit yourself to the question.
But please, let me explain just a few words, not much.
All right, proceed.
Yes. That is why, when he claimed in his testimony that I was the one who hit him, I understood that perhaps maybe either I was the last one for him to see before he hit the ground, or because I'm like a little candle in the dark.
Well, he seems to have seen the little candle in the dark hitting him. That is what he said.
I know what he said.
He said you hit him.
I understand what he said, and I know.
And you still dispute what he said?
I did not hit. But if I can say another couple of words.
Go ahead.
You see, he was my company commander. I was the one who brought him in, and I had great respect for him. Even after he was released and when he was in civilian life, we met many times. You know, and we still get on. We don't have any problems. I wish that he would have raised this years ago, as we used to meet in the street and chat, and we could have cleared it. But I can assure you, I didn't hit him.
Well, this is what he... Let me just read out from the transcript of his statement. And for the record, this is the transcript of 16 January 2019. And starting from lines say page 100 and lines, say, let me just start from maybe lines 2235. Page 99. And this is what he had to say. It's a bit extensive, but I just think that I should read this so that we know the context. Maybe I should just start from 2245. No, I'll start 2235. Says, he was asked the question, do you recall the night of September 6th, 1994? And he answered as follows. Yes, very well. On the night of 6th September, it was a normal day during the day. But by 1 a.m. or going to 2 a.m., we had strange visitors. And then I was already asleep. But we had commotion as the doors clank. One phenomenon of the prison is that when it is locked, there is complete silence. If there is internal conversation, and by the time we had the final visit, the wardens were also doing an 8-hour shift. So in the morning, they will change. By 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., they will change. And by then, by 12, they will change for the night shift. So on that particular day, after everything was done, around 1 o'clock, we had visitors led by Lieutenant Edward Singhateh, Lieutenant Sana Sabali. I think at that time they promoted themselves to captains. And then Yankuba Ture, Peter Singhateh, and some other escorts of the other soldiers. Then he was asked, was it 1 in the afternoon or 1 in the early morning? He says, this was 1 a.m. Question, can you tell us what happened when they arrived? Answer, I think as they were entering the prison corridor from the gate, the noise was overwhelming. I heard shouting, where is Captain Mamacham? Where is Captain Mamacham? And then they came to my cell door, and Tusedi, who was the senior officer, was having the keys. He was ordered to open my cell. That was done, and as soon as the door opened, they bounced, maybe this should be pounced on me, and got hold of my hands, and then handcuffed me on the back. Question, what else did they do? As soon as they disabled me, Edward started hitting me with the butt of his AK-47. And he was assisted also by some older soldiers, kicking and dragging me from where my cell was towards the main entrance. Is this a fact or this is false?
No, this is not a fact, sir. I was not carrying an AK-47 that night. So that is not a fact.
All right. He was not alone. When he claimed that, some other witness also claimed that you hit Captain Cham across the face, I think. Just a moment, let me. RSM Babukar Jeng also said this. They started shouting the name of Captain Mamacham. The doors opened, and the prison officer opened the cell door of Mamacham. And from his cell, from RSM Jeng's cell, he could see Mamacham put in handcuffs being dragged out of the cell while he was being hit and kicked. And Edward hit him on his nose with the butt of a rifle that the witness believed was AK-47, and blood started oozing from his nose. That too was mentioned by another witness. You also dispute that?
Yes, I dispute that, because like I said, I was not carrying an AK-47, and apart from that, it was so dark, I don't know how RSM Jeng would have seen blood oozing out of the man's nose, if at all, Blood was oozing out.
Well, he did say that, and he did say that from where he was able to see that. And we've been to the security wing. If they could go to the cell and see that this is this person and are able to grab him, bring him out, and are able to beat him and are not beating each other, it therefore means they can see the individual. So, but that is a matter for the commission to look into. But
did the commission go there at night?
I am saying that if people are there in a group, they are able to beat at one person and they are not beating at each other, it means to say that they can see each other, at least glaringly enough to be able to distinguish one another. But this is a matter for the commission to look into. It suffices that you raise the issue, the commission would look into it.
But sir, let me just clarify one point. Just because I denied hitting him doesn't mean that I'm reneging on my responsibility. We took the decision to go. Whatever happened there, whether I did it directly or indirectly as a council member, I am responsible.
So you accept that you participated in inhumane treatment of Captain Mamad Cham?
On that day, whether I touched him or not, by virtue of my presence in the decision when the decision was being taken and my presence at mile 2, of course, I admit to liability to that.
Good.
And if you would allow me,
I would give you a chance at the end of this issue to say whatever you want to say on this particular subject. But let me just continue my line of questioning, and we would get to that point where you would make a statement on that particular issue. There are two things, Mr. Singhateh, as you are aware. There is indirect responsibility and there is also direct responsibility. You know, so and there are various rules as to individual criminal responsibility. So what I am trying to do is to adduce evidence on each of the relevant ones. The accusation we have here is that you directly participated in torturing Mama Cham. You dispute that?
Yes, sir. I did not touch Mama Cham.
Okay. So
but if I did, I would admit it. I've got nothing to hide.
Okay. Even though we have two witnesses suggesting that you beat him?
Well, sir, he said that I led along with Sana Sabali. You don't have two co-leaders. You have one leader. And I'm not trying to push this to Sana. I'm just saying that if at all he can say that, which means that he has already got this preconceived idea about me. But please continue, sir.
I will not go into such an argument. We have Mamad Cham and Jeng, and RSM Jeng saying that you were involved in beating Captain Mamad Cham. And just a moment. We also have this statement by Abubakar Suleiman Jeng, ASP Jeng at the time. You recall him?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you think he would lie against you?
I have no reason to believe that he would.
Okay. And this is what he has to say. This is his statement, the transcript of his appearance. And this is on page 72, and this is what he had to say. Again, based on seniority, they were led by Sana Sabali, Edward Singhateh was present, Sadibu Haidara was present, Yankuba Ture was present, and a non-candidate Singhateh, whom I understand just returned from, because these personalities are sick, no, very well because I have interface and work with them. They came in, or they were the ones that visited us. And then the question was asked, can you please tell us what happened when they arrived? And then he said, the first person they asked for was, where is Captain Mamad Cham? And this time they were accompanied by some prison officers, and as well, and names I cannot remember, but I think it was deputy or the acting or whatever, Antu Seidi was there. That much I know. And he led them to where Mamad Cham was. And his cell was opened. He was handcuffed behind and was requested to crawl. Do you know who requested him to crawl? I do not exactly, but it is either Edward or Sana. But this is not something that someone told me, because my cell was positioned at around 25 or 26, and Mamad was further down this side on the opposite row. So when he comes out of his cell, there is no way that he can pass through that narrow corridor without me seeing. And I was standing by the door. I could see what was happening. He was kicked, hit with rifle butt, and taken out of the wing. Just a moment. Let me skip and move on to the next page. And then he was asked, do you recall anything in particular that they said during that period? He said, I did not hear any exchange, but I know that among the lot, Edward SINGHATEH was more brutal than any of the others, and all of them were drunk. They were all intoxicated, and I do not even know whether they realized the magnitude of what they did. So he was asked the question, why did you describe Edward SINGHATEH as more brutal than the others? And he answered, personally, I saw the manner in which he had kicked both Mamad Cham and Chongan whilst they were crawling. And you know, the pathetic bit about it is that you handcuff somebody, his hands are behind, I do not know the legs were also tied, and then expect that individual to crawl. How? And I could recall Chongan saying, how can I crawl? They said, just roll like a snake. That is what the witness said. He too is lying?
Sir, definitely this statement is inaccurate, and really...
Which bit? The brutality or the kicking?
I didn't kick Mamad Cham, and I did not kick Chongan. I'm not sure whether Chongan said that I kicked him, but I did not.
That is not...
And definitely, as far as the intoxication is concerned, really that is a very ridiculous allegation.
Well, they believed that you were intoxicated.
Well, that is very unfortunate, and it is untrue.
And it is not just one witness who said that. This is something that I have read from ASP Jeng. He said you were intoxicated. There is also a statement from Mamad Cham, who also said you were intoxicated. Mamad Cham said you were also intoxicated, and I'm not sure there was any other witness who said that, but at least two witnesses said you were reeking of alcohol.
Well, one thing I can assure you, sir, this country is a very small society. If that was my habit to go out in public reeking of alcohol, everyone would have known by now that Nimutulaleti. So it is actually not true and a complete misrepresentation.
Sirif Gomez also said that you went up to him, you pointed a gun at him, And he could see that you were drunk. He too is lying.
From inside his cell at night?
No, yes, he said you went to his cell, he was standing there, you pointed a rifle at him.
I was inside or outside the cell?
You were outside the cell, I would imagine. He was inside the cell. And you were smelling of alcohol.
Unfortunately, these are frivolous allegations.
They may be frivolous to you, but this is their statement of fact. Here, you see, so, and if you wish, I could, in fact, this issue of Sirif Gomez, I would have to come back to it. Okay? So this was their description of events, and 3 witnesses say the same thing. You believe they are still lying?
Yes, sir, their statements are inaccurate. I did not hit Mama Cham with a rifle, and I did not kick him, and I did not kick Jongan.
Did you put a pistol in the mouth of Captain Cham playing Russian roulette?
No, I never put a pistol in Mama Cham's mouth, and I don't play Russian roulette.
He did say you put a pistol in his mouth and you were playing with the trigger.
No, that is not possible.
That is not possible.
No.
But you agree, at least, that Mama Cham was beaten by men under the command of members of the council.
Yes, sir, I do.
And you know that that was illegal.
Yes, sir, I do.
You know it was a crime of assault. You know it was a crime of torture.
Absolutely, sir. I agree. It was wrong. It should not have happened.
And it was not. And after beating Mama Cham, he was subjected to some mock execution.
The mock execution, I cannot exactly recall, but I would not be surprised if it happened. I cannot recall hearing a round being discharged.
All of these victims, of course they would recall, they were the victims. They said after every single one of them was taken outside and beaten, then there was a burst of fire, and the victim was taken to another part of the security wing. Is that correct?
I am not denying the fact that it could have happened, but that part of it I cannot recall.
Well, that is what all the witnesses say.
Like I said, that one I'm not denying, but I cannot recall exactly. It's possible that it could have happened.
And the ordeal that was meted out on Captain Mama Cham was also meted out on Ibrahim Chongan. Do you agree?
I know Ibrahim Chongan was beaten too.
Mercilessly?
Well, you're either beaten or you're not. I don't know how you can beat somebody with mercy.
Yes, you can. Yes,
you can beat somebody with... Okay.
Yes, you can.
Well, okay.
But he was brutalized pretty much.
I know he was beaten. I don't want to put adjectives I mean, behind...
he put adjectives in it. He said he was badly beaten.
But he is entitled to put all of the adjectives in the world. He was maltreated, it was unfair and uncalled for.
And not only unfair and uncalled for, it was unlawful.
Sir, we have already established it was unlawful. No matter how many times you say it, it was wrong and unlawful.
We spoke about Captain Mama Cham, now I'm talking about Ibrahim Chongan.
Yes, sir.
It was unlawful.
Yes, sir, I agree.
It was a crime.
Sir, it was unlawful, it was a crime.
Thank you very much. And let's move on to RSM Jeng.
Yes, sir.
You know that he also had a medical problem, didn't you?
RSM Jeng, a medical problem at that time?
Yes, he had a fractured neck and it was held together by a string.
I am not aware of that.
But it was well known in the army that RSM Jeng was involved in an accident prior to 1994.
Yes, and I know he was. I was also involved in an accident prior to 1994.
And he had problems with his neck.
Well, what I do recall, he was on active duty at the time.
Yes, he was.
Exactly. So if he was on active duty at the time and he was not wearing a neck brace, I would not know what his medical condition was. What I do recall for Captain Johnson, that one I was aware, but not that of RSM Jeng.
Okay, so RSM Jeng was also given the same treatment as Captain Mamad Cham and AIG Ibrahim Chonga. What do you say to that?
Well, yes, I believe he was also beaten. I believe so.
Do you believe so, or do you know so?
Well, sir, I know that some of them were taken out of the cell and beaten. Definitely that one I can confirm. And whether it was 3 or 4 or 5, I can confirm the 2 of Mama Cham and Ibrahim Chongan. But that of RSM Jeng, I am not denying that. In fact, even if you said that 5 or 6, I would not deny the fact. What I would do is say that whatever happened to them was wrong, it was unlawful and illegal.
Okay, let's go through the motions. Let me put to you what RSM Jeng said about this particular incident. And this is 20 February 2019, and I'm reading from page 17 of the transcript, and this is what he had to say. He said, Lieutenant Sana Sabali, Lieutenant Edward Singhate, Lieutenant Sadbu Hydra, Lieutenant Yankuba Ture, Lieutenant Peter Singhate, and I can fully remember seeing Lance Corporal Lamin Fati, who is now 2IC at Yundum Camp, Bach Samba Jallo, WO2 Ibrahim Jallo. Can you tell us the rank of Bach Samba Jallo? He was a private. Please continue. Then he went on to say, they came with the rest of their orderlies, and then we start hearing them shouting the name of Captain Mama Cham. Those were open, they were with Antusedi. He was a prison commissioner, and I am not sure, Per Marong, whether he was there or not. I am not sure, I assume being the prison commissioner. They came, opened the doors, and they were shouting, Captain Mamad Cham, where is he, where is he? They went to his cell. The cell was opened, he was dragged out, and from where my cell is, I could see exactly when he came out of his cell. I could see Edward Singhate hit him with the AK-47 rifle. We went through that, and let's continue with what happened. He said at 3:60. Then he went on to say, they came for me, and when they came, start shouting my name. RSM Jeng is next, RSM Jeng is next. I came out. Before I came out, they wanted someone to come in and put the handcuff on me. But the soldiers that they gave the handcuff was standing there trembling and crying. They just pushed him aside, and they gave the handcuff to Ansu Sedi, who was the prison officer with them at the time. So he came in. My left arm was put in the handcuff. So I said to him, can I come out so you can do it properly? So as Antu Sedi was coming backwards, he stumbled on someone, and I was already in one handcuff. I stumbled on him, and then it was a big commotion. There may be, they thought I was trying to take arm or what. Edward Singhate came from the back and gave me a very hard stamp on my back. I fell down and I nearly collapsed because I could hear my neck went crack. Because after my accident, I had a piece of string in my neck to stabilize it, which later I found out that it moved from its position. So I was helpless. I went down, and then a lot of kicking from him, his brother at this time. Question: when you say him, who are you referring to, and who is the brother? He said Edward Singhate. He too, RSM Jeng, also claimed that you kicked him, you hit him. You deny that also?
Yes, sir. I deny that. And I really don't know how I can stamp somebody in the back and the neck goes cack. But to be quite honest, sir, I did not touch any of them that night.
So, Mr. Singhateh, all these people are lying. RS Jeng is lying. Captain Cham is lying. Ibrahima Chongan is lying. ASP Jeng is lying. All of them lied against you.
Sir, as it stands, I can only tell you that I did not touch any of them. And
so,
I
Mr. Singhateh, you want the commission to believe that you were just there as a spectator?
No, I was not there as a spectator, but I was not there to beat anyone. You see, like I told you...
But what did you do there? Answer this question, we would come back to that.
Yes.
What did you do while you were there?
Well, once we arrived, these people were, especially Mama Cham and Chongan, were dragged out of the cell for a reason. They were supposed to be interrogated. And this is what my mission was. This is what I believed was going to happen. Okay. But they were beaten. They were just set upon by the soldiers, and truly it was a beating fest. However, I did not beat.
What did you do while you were there, if anything?
I did not touch anyone. Once we were ready, we left. That was it.
Did you speak to anybody before you left?
I did not speak to anyone. I know Sheriff Gomez has said that I said something to him, but that is not true. I don't even know which cell Sheriff Gomez was in.
Well, he did say that you went to his cell. You asked, where is Adjutant Gomez? Stand up, stand up. He stood up, and you pointed your gun at him, and he did say this to you. Look, this is the second time you are pointing your weapon at my chest. And I think this is stop. This is unbecoming as an officer, and you cannot do this. It's against the law. He said, of course, you are drunk, you know, and so, and then the next thing that happened is you said to him, you said that the last time I shot, I missed. This time I'm not going to miss. That's what he told you. And you went on to say that you guys were going to come back.
No, that is not true. I think also in his testimony he did state that when he told me that this thing has to stop, that I complied.
Yes, because you did not do anything to him. You did not. You did not do anything to him. You did not do anything else.
But let me just get this straight. I was drunk. I pointed a gun at him, and somebody who is inside the cell admonished me, and I complied. You see, anyway.
So what is wrong with that?
No. What I'm trying to say is
you want to bring it down to logic.
On the one hand, if I have been so brutal with the others as they have claimed, and they did not say anything to me, and this one admonishes me, and I comply.
You did say you were going to come back, and that next time it would be his turn, and that is what you promised, that you were going to come back.
That is not true, and I'm quite sure none of them have claimed that I went back.
Well, many of the other victims claim also that they were made to believe that you were going to come back. You as in your group.
But I'm quite sure you will also agree with me that after that incident, nobody went back there.
But it's not about whether they went back. The issue is whether that threat has been made.
I did not make that threat.
But do you know whether any in your group made that threat?
I cannot recall anybody making that threat.
But wasn't it in fact the case that those who were tortured and brutalized were taken to a different part of that security wing?
I do not know exactly where they were placed back, but I do know that they were returned to their cells.
Different cells?
I cannot confirm that or deny, but I'm not saying no.
But would you agree with me that if when these people were brought out, they were beaten, gunshots were fired, and they were taken to different cells, it would be very similar to what happened previously to the civilian detainees, correct?
But I would like you to underline the if, that if this, then that. Yes, if that was the case, then yes, it would have been very similar.
And you would agree with me, therefore, that if that was the case, it would also amount to some form of psychological torture amongst the rest of the prisoners, of the inmates who were left in the cells where the others were taken from.
Of course, to answer your question, if that was the case, then definitely it would. But not even that. Even the mere visit, the mere presence, and the beatings, that also would have acted as some form of psychological torture, because you don't know whether they're going to come back or not. You have that at the back of your mind.
So now to deal with this if, we are saying that we have 6 witnesses: Ibrahim Akambi, AIG Chongan, Mamad Cham, RSM Jeng, Abubakar Jeng, and Sirif Gomez. All of them describe this in the same terms, along the same lines, that all these ifs were in fact described as things, events that happened. Do you wish to dispute that these events occurred in the way they described them? That they were taken out, they were beaten, shots were fired, and those who were taken out and beaten were transferred to completely different cells, and they were told that they will come back. Do you dispute these facts as true?
What I can say is that some of the facts are true and some are not true. However,
what is untrue?
No, the mere fact that I have been accused of hitting them, that is untrue.
And what else is not true?
The mere fact that Sheriff Gomez said that I told him that I was going to come back and I pointed a gun at him is also untrue.
Is there anything else that is untrue?
Okay, what else was I accused of? I was accused of beating Chongan, I was accused of beating Mama Cham and RSM Jeng.
Yes.
And kicking all of them. That is not true.
Okay. But those are those the only facts you dispute? Your own actions, those are the only ones you dispute? Do you dispute anything else in that narrative?
If at all I have been accused of anything else through direct contact with any of them, I also dispute that. However, what I want to say is that the whole thing was wrong. We should not have even been there in the first place. And so anything that has happened, directly or indirectly, we share all of the responsibility. But I also want to make one thing clear. I think my driver had been mentioned, something like that. Anyone who served directly under me, if they had assaulted or hit any of them, I take full responsibility for that. Anyone serving under me and directly under my command and control, I take full responsibility for their actions. They're not bad people.
We do have,
yes, sir.
We do have allegations that your orderlies participated in beating.
Well, sir, like I said, there were a lot of soldiers, well, that were beating at the same time. They were on the floor, they were being kicked, and if my orderlies did so, I take full responsibility for that as if I did it myself.
Yes, we do have allegations that your orderlies participated in that.
Well, if that is the case, I know my orderlies were good people, and I take full responsibility for their actions and I apologize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singhateh. You accept indirect responsibility for this?
Absolutely, sir.
That it was a council decision.
Yes,
all
sir.
council members you accept responsibility for torture, both physical torture and psychological torture of these people and their inhuman treatment. You accept full responsibility for that? I
accept full responsibility for that.
Okay, yes, let us then move on to what do you have to say before we move on to November 11? What do you have to say to these your superior officers who you so badly brutalized at Mile 2 prison, having kept them in illegal detention or let's say inhuman detention, some for 2 years? What do you have to say to them, especially with regards to the torture that has been meted out on them in Mile 2 prison on the night of 6th September 1994?
Well, sir, first of all, I'd like to say that really you didn't have to overflog the issue. I've agreed to everything, and yet you had to go through all of these issues.
That's what lawyers do, you know.
Yes, sir, but we are trying to reconcile. It's a reconciliation process, and I'm deeply sorry for my actions. That's why I came, and for any one of them who were harmed. And if they believe that I directly participated in the beatings too, I am sorry for that. To Mama Cham, I really wish that he had opened up to me before, because we had met many times in society. So, and we had, I mean, some pleasant conversations. It was never raised. But
yes. Did you realize when you met Mama Cham, or even the events as they were unfolding at Mile 2, you realized that this was wrong, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Like I said, not at the time. No, I would not say not at the time, because we are all grown-ups. I mean, we all know what is right and what is wrong. Everybody has a sense of that. And what happened should not have happened. But
and when you met Mama Cham, in full realization that what happened should not have happened, it was wrong, it was criminal, did you apologize to him?
No, I did not. But you see...
Well, now you have a chance.
Yes, exactly. You see, just a short explanation, and I'm not trying to prefer an excuse. You see, when soldiers are detained under such circumstances as a prisoner of war, etc., there is...
Please turn off your mobile phone.
They're the ones who trained us. And
did they train you to beat
yes,
captured soldiers?
Of course. On bush exercise, you get caught by the enemy, you are brutalized.
Did they train you to beat captured soldiers?
Like I said, I was beaten on a bush exercise because I was captured.
You knew it was wrong?
Well, they told me to deal with it.
All of you knew it was wrong, it was unlawful.
Like I said, I'm not trying to prefer an excuse. I'm just trying to give you the mental...
the mindset of
the mindset at the time.
This is something that we are interested in, Mr.
Yes.
Singhate, because this mindset needs to change. Because it's like a mindset that you can torture people and it's no problem. We have had Martins here. We all beat. We beat. That is what we do. We beat.
Yes, but let us differentiate. I mean, the way, if we are talking about the mindset, if you wouldn't mind, I will give you an example of one of the incidents that happened to me. I was in the exercise, I was supposed to play dead, and they searched me. The drill was to see how soldiers would search a dead body on the battlefield. If you come across a dead body, there's a drill to it. After searching me, Captain Vincent Jatta of blessed memory, he's a very good friend of mine and my instructor, he stood on my neck And I told him, sir, you are standing on my neck. Leave me alone. I'm supposed to be dead. He said, a dead man cannot talk. Tie him up. And I was tied.
Well, you don't have to tie a dead man.
I was tied, and I was beaten with AK-47s. But that one is in the field. Notwithstanding, we did have classes on the Geneva Convention and human rights. We did. And in fact, I just met somebody coming in.
Were the Geneva Conventions treated as dead letter law?
No, sir.
Were they taken seriously?
Well, we had workshops.
Were they taken seriously?
I'm trying to answer and explain. So
yes, you were going to something that wouldn't answer the question. Were they treated seriously?
I was going to answer your question by preferring a small explanation.
Okay, please go ahead. Make it short.
We would have the workshops that we had to attend. However, true, we attended, but I don't think much attention was. There was no follow-up to ensure that we did gain anything out of the workshop.
Essentially, the rules in the Geneva Convention, especially the humane treatment of prisoners, was never taken seriously by the Gambia National Army. Is that what you're saying?
Well, from the exercises and from my own treatment as a prisoner being caught in the bush, yes.
And also
there was no Geneva Convention applied to me.
From what you actually did to your colleagues who were detained by reason of security threats, the Geneva Conventions were not taken seriously.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that there was no excuse for it. Whether we applied them strictly or not, there was no excuse for what happened to the security detainees. And I would like to apologize to RSM Jeng. I would like to apologize to AIG Chongan and to Mama Cham. I know they may have suffered and they were hurt and badly hurt. And even the others that were not even touched. Just the mere fact that there was a visit at night and people were dragged out of their cells and beaten is enough to psychologically traumatize those others that were not touched, because they might believe that they were next. And they would have been staying with that perception or that belief for the rest of their detention, hoping that somebody won't come and visit them at night. And my participation is inexcusable, and I apologize.
And the prolonged detention, that too was unjustified.
Yes, the prolonged detention was, well, there was a process of release. Periodically, the NIA will conduct a review on who was still a security threat and who was not. Those that were deemed not a security threat to the system were released.
The allegation we have received is that these people were never security threats, like you have acknowledged. A lot of them.
Some of them, yes, definitely some of them. But some of them, sorry, you want to read?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to complete my question.
Yes.
That because they were not a security threat, the period of their detention was unjustified.
Even for one day was unjustified.
Okay, thank you. So now let's move on to November 11. Madam Chair, this is just one of the first substantive issue really we have completed with regards to the violations of rights. And I am worried that we may not be able to finish tomorrow if we proceed at this pace and the time allocation. So I was thinking that perhaps we can continue until 4:30, just so that we can cover more ground. Except, of course, if the Commission does not mind to sit on Friday, just in case we cannot finish tomorrow. But we are in your hands, Madam Chair. It is just possible that even if we adjourn now, we can finish tomorrow. But I leave it in your hands. If we take the risk and we don't finish, it means we may have to come back either on Friday or on Monday. But we are in your hands, Madam Chair.
Well, I stand to be guided. Witness, how comfortable are you going until 4:30?
Madam Chairperson, I'm in the hands of the Commission. I came to cooperate. If you hold me here till 6, I will kindly oblige.
Yes, you kill me. Maybe
maybe we can go until 4:30.
Interpreters, is that okay for you? Okay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singhateh, thanks for obliging us. So now let's talk about November 10th and 11th.
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead. What happened November 10th?
Yes, sir. We had already got wind of a coup in the making. In fact, we had heard the rumors for a couple of weeks, but rumor being rumor, you don't act on. Are you with me, or?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
sir. Thank you. Rumor being rumor, you don't act. You try and investigate and find out. But as time grew close, the rumors became more rife, and the military intelligence and the NIA were all giving warnings and making reports that this coup was imminent and was going to happen. Now, we decided that, look, we are all brothers in arms, we are comrades, brothers at arms, we are comrades. Why don't we go and speak to them and ask them not to launch their coup, to appeal to them, to be patient, to appeal to them, to be calm, so that at least we can have peace and move forward. So we went to Yundum barracks on the 10th and met with the soldiers and officers and tried to dispel the rumors that were being spread. The rumors were that we had appropriated lots of money to ourselves, we had paid ourselves from the treasury, which was not true. Another rumor was that we had acquired mansions for ourselves, new houses, which was not true. We had only moved into houses that were vacant but were being paid for by government. Another rumor was that I think there was the money from the treasury, which was not true. Nobody paid themselves. The other one was the house. The other one was the vehicles. They thought, or they were telling some of the soldiers and others that the vehicles that we were using that belonged to the ministries actually belonged to us. Another rumor was that I in particular was going to get rid of all senior civil servants, which really is complete and utter nonsense. Because I've worked with a lot of senior civil servants, and you can go and check with them how I have treated them, how well I have. But anyway, coming back to, so we met them to try to dispel these rumors and appeal to them. So,
where was that meeting held?
The meeting was held in Yundum Barracks.
Who went with you?
All council members went.
Except Yaya Jammeh?
Sorry, except Yaya Jammeh, of course. Yes.
Was your brother present?
No, sir, he was not.
All right. Yes. Proceed, please. What happened when you arrived at Yundum Barracks?
So we had the meeting. We tried to our best to explain to the soldiers that they have to be patient, that really we have made big promises, but the Gambia is not a rich country, and therefore we have to find a way of making sure that we do bring the development that we had promised accordingly.
Could you tell us who was present on the other side?
Right now it's going to be a little bit difficult to, I cannot recall.
Okay, I'll ask a few names.
Yes.
Lieutenant Barrow, was he present in the meeting?
At that meeting, I don't believe so.
Jibril Sey, Lieutenant, was he present?
I think so, yes.
All right.
Yes.
But how about those from Fajara Barracks? Were they present?
No, those from Fajara Barracks was not present. I believe the plan was...
Go ahead, go ahead.
The plan was to move from Yundum Barracks to Fajara Barracks and also have a similar meeting. But by the time we had finished, we had got word that those in Fajara Barracks had dispersed. So we could not hold that meeting at Fajara Barracks.
We have a picture
Yes, sir.
of the falling of the soldiers during that event. Perhaps maybe at a later stage I will show you that picture to confirm whether that was the event. But what I want to drive at first is, how many meetings did you have at Yundum Barracks on that day? Was it one meeting or was it 2 or 3 meetings?
No, as far as I can recall, it was one meeting with the troops, with all of them.
How about the officers?
No, there was no separate meeting with the officers.
Okay, it was just one meeting, both
Yes.
the officers and the men.
Yes, sir.
All right.
As far as I can recall.
All right. Proceed, please.
Yes, sir. So we returned back to State House and briefed, Chana Sabali briefed President Jammeh, and we were hoping that at least we had talked some sense into the coup plotters, and either them or the soldiers would renege on what they were trying to do, and there would not be a problem, we could move forward. However, sometime, I think around 10 o'clock, I can't remember the exact time, I was at home, and Sana Sabali came to my gate, he came to my compound, he was...
Did he come alone?
No, sir, I was just trying to say that. He came with other council members, Saribu Haidara, Yankuba Ture.
And how about their orderlies?
Yes, yes, their orderlies were there.
And were they armed?
Of course, everyone was armed.
With what?
With AK-47s at the time. Perhaps a couple of 40mm grenade launchers I attached to AK-47s, I cannot recall, but it was just a standard weapons.
And then proceed, please.
Yes, sir. So Sana Sabali told me that, well, they're moving. We've got to go to State House immediately. Dress up and go, and let's go. So,
who did he say were moving?
He said that the coup was being launched. Yes, that they were mobilizing in Yundum and distributing arms, something of the sort. That it was clear that they were launching the coup, and that they were going to come to our houses and arrest us and our families and have us executed. So I was urged to urgently dress up and then move with them to State House. So I go back in the house, and there is Peter, and I tell him that he has to dress up and come with me. I tell him that the coup is imminent, is being launched. Firstly, he told his reaction was, well, I mean, what has that got to do with him? And I told him in no uncertain terms that, look, you know, first of all, some of the coup plotters' names are names of soldiers that are serving under you in the training school. That doesn't tell well. So if you don't come, you could be suspected as being part. And secondly, we have information that they are going to come and arrest us in our houses and take us and our families and execute us. So even if I'm not here, if you are found here, you could be dealt with in that manner. So reluctantly, he dressed up, and I gave him my bulletproof jacket that I got from Libya. But before we departed, I explained to my mother what was happening, and I wanted them to leave the house, perhaps go to my uncle's house in Joshua at the time, until everything had passed. However, my wife, who was pregnant with our first son, was too sick to be moved. So my mother refused, and she refused to leave my wife and my daughter behind, and my sister, who was also there, refused. So I had no choice but to leave them behind and proceed to Yundum, knowing that something could happen. But as a result, I left one of the orderlies behind.
Name?
Lamin Marena. I left him behind to guard the house. So we proceeded to Banjul, and Yaya Jammeh was there. I think they had also already got the information because all of the soldiers were out, they were armed. Yaya Jammeh was downstairs, and generally the order was to go and preemptively attack the barracks in Yundum while they were arming themselves before they are properly prepped, because that will give us an edge, the element of surprise. So,
apart from that, were you given any orders?
Yes, sir, I'm coming to that. Yes, sir.
Proceed, please.
Yes, sir. So we divided the troops into three. One group was supposed to stay at State House. The other was supposed to secure the bridge. The other was supposed to follow us and our orderlies, of course, to Yundum. And so before we left, the order that President Jammeh gave to Sana Sabali was take no prisoners.
On that particular issue,
yes, sir.
Was there a council meeting before that order was given?
No, there was no council meeting. We were all out there, not far from the guard room.
Did you and other council members go upstairs and have consultations with Yaya Jammeh?
No, what I can recall is that when we came, well, there was no time for consultations. We were about to be attacked, so we had to move quickly.
The evidence we received from Sana Sabali was that the council members had a meeting.
No, there was no time.
And a decision was taken
no,
to
sir.
go and attack Yundum barracks and, if need be, Fajara barracks, and take no prisoners.
Well, sir, that was not the discussion as it was, as you have just put it. We were supposed to go and quell the coup, whether it was Fajara barracks or Yundum barracks or wherever. But the information that we had at the time was that they were mobilizing in Yundum. So that was our objective. And after dividing the troops, we left.
Okay. But what was the operational order? It was, as you say, take no prisoners, correct?
Well, technically, operational orders or up orders mean something completely different from what you are suggesting.
What I am trying to ask, or what I am trying to underline in the record, is what you have just said, that the order that your party was given was to take no prisoners, correct? Those were your words.
Yes, sir. It's just that you mentioned operational orders. Operational orders are tactical plans.
All right.
Yes.
I may have used the wrong terminology in military language. But on this particular occasion, the order you were given was to take no prisoners.
That is correct, sir.
All right. And then what do you understand that to mean, take no prisoners?
It's very simple. Make sure that none of them survive.
Essentially, you were ordered to go and kill these coupists, or those participants in the coup.
Well, what we were ordered to do was to quash the coup, in the process to make sure that there were no prisoners left alive.
Okay. Good. Just to go back onto that point I was talking about, I have this photograph, and help us determine whether this photograph was taken during that meeting at Yundum Barracks on the 10th of November. Does it ring a bell? If not,
I cannot tell, because I don't know how many times Sanasabali has met, has gone to the barracks. Whenever he goes, this would be the reception.
Okay.
So
all
it
right.
could be 10th, it could have been any day.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. But we were talking, before this, we were talking about the order you were given on 10 November, and you said it was to go and in the process of the fighting to take no prisoners, kill them all. That is the order you were given?
Yes, sir, the order was to take no prisoners.
Good. And on the basis of that, you deployed. Do you recall how many of you were deployed?
It was something a little bit less than a company. Company ordinarily is 3 platoons, each of 30 men. It was less than that.
Less than 100 men?
Yes, less than 100 men it was.
And you divided yourself into 3 groups, correct?
No, what happened was, when we went to, well, when we got close to, Abuko?
Banjulunding?
No, Abuko.
Abuko?
Yes. We turned right and then took the back, shortly before the bridge in Lamen, we took a back road to Yundum. Yes, sir.
What I want to know is how many people went to Yundum, because if in total you were around 90 men and you divided yourselves into 3 groups, one remained at State House, one at the bridge,
no.
How many men went to Yundum? Or was it that the 100 men went to Yundum?
No. When you asked divided into 3 groups, I thought you meant those of us that were already designated to go, that were divided, because at one point we were divided into 3 groups.
Okay. What was the sum total of the soldiers available who were then divided into 3 groups?
The sum total of, because I know there were at least perhaps 2 companies at State House at the time. I could be wrong. And if there was that amount, perhaps the ones that we went with were anywhere between 50 or 60, something in that nature, I mean in that neighborhood.
And that group you went with, did you leave any of them at the bridge, or the group that was left at the bridge was a completely different group?
Yes, like I said, at State House we were divided into 3 groups. The bulk were at State House. A smaller contingent were sent to the bridge, and then we went with the rest.
With the rest, which was about 60, you said?
60, 70 or
thereabouts.
Yes, or thereabouts, yes.
We received evidence that before you depart, Yahya Jammeh said he was going to join your group, and he was restrained. He was told to remain, and that he suggested that if he were to go, or if he went, a lot of families would cry. Is that true?
Let me just say, Maninka, ya Jamela Kibro Wartal. He did mention that, okay, yes, he's going to go, and it's just like,
was it empty bluff?
It's just like you have somebody, baile mama he, and then you leave him and then he stands. Something of the sort. And I'm quite sure he might be watching this and insulting my mother. But anyway, that he was told by Sanasabali that no, stay. You know, we will take care of it, and he did. He remained
happily.
Huh?
Happily.
Well, I would not want to.
Let's move on.
Of course. Thank you, sir.
So you went up to Banjulding area, or wherever?
Yes, I think it was somewhere in Abuko. We branched right and took the back road to Yundum, knowing that perhaps they will be expecting us through the main gate. So we we stopped a couple of kilometers or so from the camp, and as Sanasabali was preparing the troops to go, I told him that he should allow me first of all to go in with a small group so that I can assess the situation and radio back to him the situation. Maybe they had already departed, maybe it was not as bad as we were told, and it's always good to have eyes on the ground so that the rest of the troops can be properly guided. Initially he said no, but then I convinced him and he allowed me to go. I think I went with 2 other soldiers.
Name, please?
I believe, and I'm going out on a limb, and if I'm wrong, I hope the person forgives me. I think one of them was Lamin Senghor. The other one I cannot.
AKA assassin?
I don't know any AKA for Lamin Senghor, to be quite honest.
He testified before the commission?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we have a Lamin Senghor who testified before the commission, and he said it was him you went with.
Okay, then it was with Lamin Senghor, and the other I cannot recall his name. So we infiltrated around the back gate through the fence, a part of the fence that was damaged. And as we were creeping through that area, moving very carefully within the shadows so that we would not be seen because we could be shot, I noticed the sentry was concentrating more inside the barracks rather than on his field of fire or area of responsibility. So we moved behind the containers containing the Chinese weapons, and after we crossed that, I could see as we moved down slowly towards the flagpole that yes, there were more soldiers in the barracks than usual. They were moving up and down, and something was going on. So we moved towards the guard room, staying in the shadows, making sure that we were not seen. And I could see that soldiers, there were more guards. Well, the guards are usually armed, but there were more soldiers, and they were also armed. So I knew that there was something, and I could see some traffic in and out of the guard room as well, going down towards the company line. So there was a soldier who left the guard room and came down towards our end. I moved out of the shadows, grabbed him and pulled him back quickly and covered his mouth. He wanted to shout. I suppressed his voice. And when he calmed, because I was telling him, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to hurt you. When he calmed, I asked him what was going on. But he was in such a state at that time. I could see he was panicking. And from his demeanor, he was not armed. From his demeanor, I believe that he was not part of the coup. So I told him to walk in the opposite direction. Just go, just leave, because I knew that an attack was imminent, and when shots are fired all around, it would be unfortunate if the wrong people are hit. So I just told him to leave. Now, because by the time we trekked to the camp, and then it took time to move without being seen. It's not like just walking in a straight line. You have to move through the shadows so that nobody will be able to see you. I'm sure the time that Sanasabali had allocated had elapsed, and he might have thought maybe something had happened to me. And I heard gunshots, which meant that either Sana had stormed the camp or something else happened. But once the gunshots persisted, there was exchange of fire. After a short while, it did not take that long. We had taken the camp, and whoever was illegally armed at that point or part of the coup, they had dispersed.
We have had testimony from people who were with you And they did not talk about any gunfire at
yes.
Yundum Barracks.
Oh yes, there was gunfire at Yundum Barracks.
Not as at the stage that the camp was taken.
There was gunfire at the camp was taken. In fact, that was the first set of gunfire. So
your evidence is that before the camp was actually taken, before you changed all the sentries, before you had effective control of that camp, there was gunfire. Is that your testimony?
That is my testimony.
All right. Perhaps we would do this tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
We would go through the testimony of other witnesses to show you that, in fact, that is not the evidence that we have received. In fact, the evidence is that you quietly came in and took over the camp. There was no fighting at Yundum Barracks.
Okay, well, tomorrow I will finish my testimony on this, and I'm just here to tell you what I know and what I saw and what I heard.
You see, we have the report of the government about what happened at Yundum, and their approach was to suggest falsely that soldiers have died in the fighting. The evidence that we have received is completely different from that. During this firing that you were talking about, what happened?
Well, I was, like I told you, by the guard room at that time. I was not part of those who stormed the camp. I was already in the camp. And so those who stormed the camp with Sana Sabali would be best positioned to highlight exactly what happened and to explain. But from where I was, I heard gunfire, and from more than one AK-47.
Were there any casualties as a result of this gunfire?
You see, like I told you before, I believe you're scrambling for something. I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Not meant to distract you. I am concentrating on what you're saying, regardless of what I do with my colleagues here. I don't miss anything. Please go ahead.
Like I explained to you before, the narrations that have come before the commission and the stories that have been told by soldiers for years, completely different.
Some of it, yes.
Yes, yes.
But proceed by telling us what happened when your colleagues stormed the camp. Were there any casualties?
Well, I believe there were. However, I would like to subscribe to what Sana has said and take responsibility for those who were executed in the aftermath.
Our position, our theory, is that there was nobody who was killed in action. All those soldiers who died were executed in cold blood by their colleagues day before Remembrance Day. What do you say to that?
Well, I have one simple statement to make to this. You see, there were exchange of fire for accumulatively for a couple of hours, both Fajara and Yundum. Now, it is very foolhardy to believe that with all of these people, these soldiers fighting at each other in close proximity, there was no casualties. Maybe the jujus were working, I don't know. But people have been led to believe that there were no casualties. Everyone was executed. And I know, no matter how long it takes, there will be some other evidence that comes out to refute that. But in the interest of reconciliation, in the interest of moving forward, I would subscribe to what has been said about the executions. And
Mr. Singhate,
yes, sir.
This commission would not accept that. This commission has a responsibility to investigate the truth and place responsibility where it merits to be placed. The commission has an important responsibility. It would not just make assumptions. We would look into the evidence and we would determine, the commissioners would determine who is responsible for what. In as much as you want to own up to things simply because you belong to a group that committed violations, you would only be attributed responsibility for those violations if you are individually criminally responsible, not because somebody else is responsible. No. So we are going to look into all these things and arrive at the truth. As far as you know, were there any casualties in that so-called exchange of fire?
First of all, it was not so-called.
I would call it so-called for the time being, because yours is the only evidence that we have received about an exchange of fire in Yundum Barracks.
There was exchange of fire, but there were no casualties at that point.
Good. So at Yundum Barracks, no casualties?
No, that was not the only exchange of fire we had at Yundum.
I am coming. We were talking about up to the time you took full control of the barracks.
Yes, sir.
And changed the sentries and all that. There were no casualties. You agree to that?
Yes, sir, I do.
So what happened after you have taken over the barracks?
Once we had secured Yundum Barracks, we were informed that they were actually mobilizing from Fajara Barracks as well. And most likely they were supposed to launch, come and rendezvous with those coup plotters from Yundum, at Yundum, and launch their attack and go to our various residences and attack Banjul.
But Mr. Singhate, just back to this issue of gunfire.
Yes, sir.
To take over the barracks. If there was gunfire, as you suggested, an exchange of fire, wouldn't that have given notice to those who were at Fajara Barracks?
There's no way that you can hear a gunshot fired in Yundum at Fajara.
But it's not necessary really for them to hear it. It's just important for some people to hear it, and word would quickly get to Fajara Barracks that there is fighting at Yundum.
Sir, remember communication, there were no mobile phones at that time.
But there were landlines, and a lot of them at the time.
Yes, but the landlines were in the signal room. There were no, the direct lines were in the adjutant's office and in the CO's office. But even the officers' mess, you have to go through the signals. But
there were people in the neighborhood that had telephones.
Which kind of telephones? In Yundum at that time?
Yeah, there were no landlines in Yundum. That's what you want to tell us?
Can you remember what Yundum was like in 1994?
Yes,
there were no houses around there at the time.
There were houses around Yundum, Mr. Singhate.
No, what I mean around the camp. Obviously, there was Yundum village.
But exactly.
Yes.
There were houses in Yundum village, and undoubtedly there will be more telephones. So you want to tell us that there was fighting in Yundum, and nobody elsewhere knew about it?
Sir, especially with regards to this communication, let us be realistic. Even if there were landlines in Yundum, in some of the houses in Yundum, who would you call? Would you, which barracks would you call? Remember, there were no telephone directories that you can just access like that. They were few and far between, and the numbers that you had were strictly those of the people that you knew.
Yes, but this is in fact not a very significant point, to be quite candid. But because all those who testified here, but we would come back to this point tomorrow, never mentioned any form of fighting actually in Yundum Barracks before the camp was taken over by your party. But you give us a different story. Now let's proceed with what happened after you have secured the barracks. and then you had word that in fact the preparations were being done from Fajara Barracks. Proceed from that point. Maybe I'm just worried. So we go till 5? Okay, Madam Chair, you may adjourn now.
We are pushing the bar. We had agreed on 4:30.
Yeah.
But if you want, we go to 4:45, then we'll call it a day.
It's now 4:45. Perhaps maybe 5? 5 p.m. Then we leave it at that.
I have to check again. You have said you don't mind going on. Interpreters, are you okay? You're tired? I think.
Okay, I think we stop now.
We have to stop. Okay. He knows the question. He'll think about it.
Madam Chair, let's do till 5. 5 p.m.
That's for you. They said they're tired. Hmm?
All right. Yeah.
Okay, let's.
Madam Chair, we can adjourn. They're tired.
You're tired. Okay, we are tired.
5 till
Definitely.
tomorrow.
They've been talking all day. We are still 10 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you very much, Edward. Thank you very much, lead counsel. Thank you very much, interpreters. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you.